Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Come on in. Come on in. I have some important information to share with you today. Come on in, everybody. Grab some coffee and let's go live, live, live with Chevy Cool Lady. I have important information for you to help yourself or someone you love who may be in a CC or DV situation. So come on in and be prepared to take some notes because I have information that could save someone's life. Come on in, guys. Welcome. Grab your coffee. We're going to chat. I love my coffee black. Come on in. Come on in. I'll just give you a couple minutes and then I'm going to get started. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in. We're going to be talking about information that could save someone's life. This is important. We need to be helpful. We need to develop resources among ourselves so that we can truly be helpful in these situations. We've learned a lot about domestic violence. We've learned a lot about abuse. We've learned a lot about coercion and control and mind control. I have plenty of videos on all these subjects to catch you guys up. And now it's time to take some action and prepare yourself to be a helpful person for people in need. Isolation. People who are being abused are isolated in almost every case. So we're going to break through that wall, aren't we? We're going to be helpful to people. We're not going to ignore situations because I guarantee someone you know, someone you see every day is in a domestic violent situation, and they might not be here tomorrow if you don't take action, if I don't take action. We must be the resource and help that God's calling us to be, to pull people and extract them out of dangerous situations. Come on in, guys. I have some important information for you today. We're going to talk about telling your story, documenting your experience with coercive control and domestic violence. We got to put a stop to this. We're losing people every day. We lost Micah to this situation. She tried to get help. She did the right things, and no one helped her. She ran out of resources. She wasn't helped the day that she needed help. We know that. It's tragic. It's heartbreaking. And we all feel the pain, and we all feel her loss. Even if we didn't ever meet her, I feel that loss. I feel the loss of the music that she would have sang, the worship, full leadership that she offered, her gifts, her talents, her smile. She's like almost like a daughter to me in my mind. I never met her, but my heart goes out to her, and I know all of you who have been involved in the justice for Micah feel the same way. And some of you did know her, and some of you are family, and some of you've lost other loved ones whose names are not mentioned in the videos. And the pain is there, and the emptiness is there. And my heart goes out to you guys. Holy God, I just pray right now in the name of Jesus that you'll bless this time and get this information out. I just praise you for your comfort and your provision. I thank you so much that you are God who makes a way when there seems to be no way. And I worship you and I praise you and I lift this time up to you. Thank you so much. I pray very much that these messages that I'm posting today will fall on the right ears. So I'm going to ask you guys to please watch, like, and subscribe and share the video that I'm posting on telling your story, writing your experience with coercive control and domestic violence. It's so important to document this information. Micah did the right things. Without what we were able to salvage of her documentation, it showed so much corruption, didn't it? Now it showed a whole double life of people around her, didn't it? Without those notes, there'd be nothing to hold on to. This is evidence, but it needs to be formatted in a particular way. It needs to all be documented in clear and concise terms. We're going to go over these ways. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me. I really appreciate you. We're talking about telling your story, your experience with domestic violence and coercive control. So, how do I document? We're going to go over these things. Taking these steps is necessary also if you're contemplating a divorce, if you're planning to be in family court at all. The more documentation in easy to read format, it's crucial. If you have a bunch of papers, it's hard for anybody to sift through that. So I suggest journaling. You can also use a digital format, but it's of utmost importance that these notes are kept where your abuser cannot obtain them. Cannot obtain your notes. You have to secure them like Fort Knox. Secure your notes. Let's go over what we're going to do. Keep a journal. Whether it's on paper or digital format, you're going to want to write down exactly what happened in as clear and concise terms that you possibly can use. Don't waste a whole lot of paper, or boil it down to what happened, who was involved, exactly what took place. Were there any witnesses? What other evidence? Are there pictures? Everything, including date, time, everything that you, and location that you can put down concerning your coercive control or domestic violence incidents. Go back in your memory, sit down with a calendar if you need to, and write this information down. Tell your story. When you're abused, you lose your voice. You have no voice because it was taken from you. I'm here to empower you today, to give you tools and resources that will help you extract yourself from coercive control and domestic violence. People, this information is important. Save any type of texts, message, emails that you receive that are coercive, that are controlling, that are manipulative, that are purposed to dominate and stifle you. You want this information. You want copies of these texts. You want copies of these emails. Look at how many emails that John Paul sent to Micah. He even said he sent 4 on the 27th, the day of her death. We don't even know. It seemed like 2 were recovered. I don't know what's going on with that. But the texts, look how many texts we saw. What's weird is John Paul was the one that turned a lot of this information in. I don't know how he thought that was going to help him out, because it really just made him look bad. Thank God for texts. Thank God for messages, for journals, for documentation, because those are the tools that are used in the court of law to win a case. Keep a journal, save text messages and emails, take screenshots. All this is evidence to back up your story. Tell your story. Recover your voice. Record phone conversations. Record. Become very familiar with the voice recording. device on your phone or put an app on there. Record conversations, even whatever you need to do. There's plenty of I Spy equipment. Put cameras around. But be very careful, because you don't want any of this to be found out by the perpetrator. The abuser must not get a hold of your documentation. If you have a friend you could leave it with, or lock it someplace where they cannot have access to it. Put it somewhere safe. It's so important. I remember there were several rumors in the early days after Micah's death of even little bonfires going on in John Paul's yard. We don't know what was burned allegedly in those fires. We don't know. But people who are abusers are going to try very hard and very quickly and very manically to gather any evidence against them and destroy it and destroy your case in their mind. And sometimes it works. So you want to be very careful with this documentation and evidence to keep this stuff secured, locked away, behind digital firewalls, whatever you need to do. Do it. Don't take a chance. Keep medical records. Did you ever have to go to the doctors? Did you have to go to the hospital? Did you have to call 911? Do you have reports from EMTs, nurses? Did you see anyone at the hospital who can verify the condition you're in? Get it on paper, gather your records, and get them all in one place. You need this stuff. This is important information, and that's why I'm sharing it with you. Get witness statements. Who was around that saw the coercive behavior? Who was around that saw you with any type of physical markings, emotional scars, anything? Who was witness to this coercive treatment? Keep copies of police reports and restraining orders. Keep your copy. If you think you're going to be able to retrieve this information at a later date from them, you might be sadly mistaken. A lot of paperwork just gets lost. I wonder if it even gets filled out at all. There's a lot of people that don't do their jobs, don't put importance on a woman or a man who are in a domestic situation, and try to do as little as possible. So you have to be the one to do everybody else's job. You have to do your own documentation, your own reporting, your own files, your own witnesses. You need evidence, and you need it stored in a secure place. It's very important. Now, I'm posting a video today on telling your story, documenting your experience with coercive control and domestic violence. And I really hope y'all will watch it, like, subscribe, and share, because this information could actually save somebody's life. It could win their family court case. It could restore their children back to them and out of the abuser's hands. Whatever the situation is, we know documentation is vital. So I'm just going to go over these ways that you can keep these notes and remember to do it. How to document spousal abuse. How to document spousal psychological abuse. It's a lot easier to take a picture of a black eye than a broken heart, isn't it? Spousal psychological abuse is a form of domestic violence that's often overlooked. While physical abuse is often more visible, psychological abuse can be just as damaging, if not more so. Spousal psychological abuse can leave lasting emotional scars that can affect a victim's mental health, self-esteem, and well-being, and overall well-being. Psychological abuse can take many forms. Verbal attacks, threats, gaslighting, isolation, manipulation, control, emotional neglect. When you're under the dominating power of an abuser who's using manipulative tactics to control you, it's like walking around in a cage. You lose your identity, which is exactly what they want. They want you to lose your voice. And I want to give it back to you. Victims of psychological abuse may feel trapped and unable to leave the relationship. You feel stuck. You feel frozen in time. And you're not. You're not. There's hope. There's help. There's resources. There are plenty of survivors who have been through the same thing, but are on the other side. And those of you who are survivors, it's up to you to reach back and let people know there is hope and there is help and there are resources, and let them know how you did it. We are saved by faith in God, but also the word of our testimony. The word of our testimony. If your testimony includes survival, share it. People need to hear it. People need to hear it. It's a matter of life and death. Share your story. Tell your story. Document your experience with coercive control. Silence is a killer. So we're going to break the silence. We're going to give people back their voice. Psychological abuse can be difficult to identify and document, but it's essential that you do so in order to protect yourself, seek legal protection, and hold your abuser accountable. We saw so many times in the Micah Francis case where not only the abuser was not held accountable, but the people who enabled the abuse. We saw people allegedly, like Trish. I just went over when she was interviewed by a local news video. And if you didn't see the words, if you didn't hear the words, because I didn't, I turned it on silent, I turned it on mute, just so I could watch the expressions, and I zoomed up. And it almost made me just throw up. It really made me sick. She actually was laughing at one particular point. I'm like, what in the hell is funny? What in the hell is funny about this situation? Only a day or two after Micah's death. What was that smirk about? If I had to take a guess, in my opinion, it showed entanglement in the situation. She came out with some lengthy little speech about, oh, I myself have been involved. I could never overlook. Well, you know what? I don't buy it. I don't buy that you didn't overlook. I think you overlooked, and I think you enabled that pastor, so-called pastor, that wolf in sheep's clothing, to do whatever he did and to get away with it. We saw other people in Micah's life who were supposed to be like a father to her, a spiritual advisor to her husband, a pastor of many other churches who's involved in so many things that seem shady to me. But someone she trusted. We saw Reverend Randall betray her trust, according to the documents that Micah preserved. Documentation. We wouldn't know about these things if she didn't keep notes, would we? Accountability. Not only is the perpetrator accountable, but everybody who knows about the abuse, who are compliant in the act, need to be held accountable, in my opinion, as well. Keeping a journal, write down the date, time, details of any abusive incidents, including what was said, how you felt. Provide crucial evidence of the abuse. It can help you track patterns of behavior, because coercive control is defined as a pattern of behavior that takes place more than twice. A pattern of behavior intended to control, manipulate, and dominate another person, allowing them to take away the basic civil liberties that were granted under the Constitution of the United States and according to the free will of God. How can another person take the purpose of God from another person's life? Because that's what they're basically doing by removing their voice, by isolating them, by psychologically and physically manipulating and dominating another person. No, that got to stop. It's got to stop. So if you are experiencing it or someone you know, documentation is essential. Documentation in clear and concise form, put away where the abuser can't find it. Saving text messages and emails. Preserve any threatening or demanding messages your partner sends you. As with a journal referenced a moment ago, keep copies of these messages in a safe place where your abuser cannot access them. The messages can be crucial evidence in legal cases. Also, like a journal, you may want to tell a trusted friend or family member that you have been saving text messages and emails indicative of abusive conduct by your spouse. Micah did that, didn't she? She even gave apparently information to her attorney. I know her sisters knew about her investigation and turning over evidence according to her to authorities. Micah was trying her best to extract herself from a coercive situation. And her story had a tragic end. I don't want this story to have a tragic end for you. Tell your story. Write down incidents of abuse, coercive control, and domestic violence. Write it down. Document it carefully with dates and times and evidence. Record the phone conversations. Now, there are some stipulations in some states with records, but still do it. Still do it, in my opinion. If your partner verbally abuses you over the phone, recording the conversation, if it's legal to do so in your state, can provide important evidence of abuse. Make sure to check the laws in your state before recording any conversation, whatever. New Jersey is what is known as a one-person consent state. So it's all right if one person gives consent to be recorded, which would be the person recording. But anyway, I'm just saying, keep records, keep evidence. In my opinion, worry about that other stuff later on. What can be used, what can't be used. Gather it, keep it clean, keep it concise, keep date, times, locations, witnesses, and any other information attached to it to substantiate your accusation or claim or whatever you want to call it. Keep medical records. If the abuse has caused you physical harm, keep a record of your injuries and medical treatment. Hi, good morning, I Spy. Come on in. Oh, I'll get to the 911 call in just a minute and let you know that this was an incident that took place. I'll just explain it. What the heck? That took place in May. I can't remember the date, if it was May 30th. It was just less than a month or about a month after Micah's passing, according to a 911 call that was made by apparently detectives who were working on a missing person case. Some people, I believe they may have been from North Carolina. A couple was missing. He called in and said, according to the crime scene, foul play probably took place towards a woman that was involved. I don't know what they found, but evidence was found right over the state line um, in Airedale County, North Carolina. Um, there was apparently a white truck that was seen where, but I think it was 803, I can't remember. But Howard Avenue, the location with the Solid Rock Church. So here, a truck involved in some way, in some manner, according to my understanding, was last seen in Solid Rock. It's a parking lot. According to Danielle, who did research and actually talked to the family members of the missing people, they didn't know why that truck would be there. The only connection was possibly the gentleman involved had been healed through a miraculous event from cancer and was going around to the area churches witnessing of his miracle. So if he was there because of that, the son didn't know. So I don't have a lot of information, and I'm not sure what's happened, but somehow it's tied. Maybe they knew some things that were going on. We don't know. There's a whole lot of speculation, and some other names came up in Anne's live that she did with Danielle last night. So you might want to rewatch the whole thing. In the chat, they began discussing some other things that I am not familiar with, but I went ahead and put that out because it was some new information. So somehow, why it's just coming to the surface, where it's been, I don't know that either. I don't know if Danielle actually was listening to every single 911 call, because I know she FOIA'd a lot of information and just, popped out to her. I'm not sure. But that's as much as I know about the last 911 call. So today I'm just trying to give some advice and some practical information concerning people who are trapped in coercive control situations, who are in abusive situations, who are trying to extract themselves. And it's such a common epidemic at this particular point that someone is involved. And I don't care, it might be your mother, brother, sister, cousin. It might be the little girl at the corner store or at the grocery store. But we're walking by people every day who are being coerced and controlled, who are trying to get out and don't know what to do. So I want to provide some resources. I want to provide some hope. I want people to know I'm a survivor of domestic violence and abuse, and I'm all right today. I'm good. I'm with my family and my friends and people who cared. And it's because of people who reached out and helped me, who gave me a place to stay when my only alternative was to stay in a home with an abuser, which is worse than prison to me. You are in prison, not just in a place, but in your mind and your emotions. You lose your identity and you lose your voice. So what are we going to do? We're going to empower people to get their voice back. We're going to give them information on what they need to do to secure a case that could possibly save their life, that might cause indictments of the perpetrator and get rid of them out of the situation, whether they go to jail or whatever. People need help, and that's what we're here for. We're going to help people as much as we can. So keeping copies of police report, restraining orders, remember documenting spousal psychological abuse is important. All of it's important. All right. So today I'm just going over some resources. If you are in an abusive situation or know someone who is, if you're not able to help them yourself, which is the best thing, because we turn all this stuff over to the government, and really, has the government ever made any situation better? I'm just asking, have you seen it? If your church isn't involved in ministries that are actually helping people, maybe you need to either start one or find someplace who is, because it, in my opinion, is the job of the church to take care of the bride and make sure that we're good, whatever it takes. We offer hope and freedom. But if someone is encaged in a coercive situation, where is the freedom? Let's offer some practical hope and help and resources and advice that could actually help people out, instead of just being like, oh, I'll pray for you over there, way over, stay over there. Don't come too close to me. No, no. Jesus talked about laying your life down, didn't he? And that's what he did, and he's our example. Are you willing to lay your life down? Are you willing to lay your pride or your appointment or, what you have going on to help somebody? If somebody calls you in the middle of the night, are you willing to go get them? What if they die and you don't? That's how I look at it. I had a situation years ago. I had a pretty big house, and I was really just getting back on my feet after an abusive situation. I finally had moved maybe 100 miles away from where I had been in a abusive situation. A place I would have died if I stayed. I got a new job. I got some clothes to wear to the job. I was starting from scratch, and things were going all right. And I finally had enough money to get a pretty nice house to stay at, and I had some extra rooms. One day I was at the community pool, and a woman who I knew of, didn't know real well, but she kind of hung in the outskirts of the circles that I was hanging with up there, and to tell you the truth, I knew she was a woman with problems with addiction, with alcohol. I saw her laid out and passed out many times. I really didn't on my own want to have anything to do with her. I really didn't. It wasn't fun for me to be around her. You know what I'm saying? But here she was. Here she was. You're welcome. You're welcome. I spy. She showed up at the pool one day, beat up, black eye, and came and sat at the table I was at. And I said, Jeannie, what happened to you? Was it that man you're with? And she said, yes, I have nowhere to stay. Can I stay with you? And I went, what? And I didn't want to. And I didn't take her home with me. And I didn't sleep. And I knew Jesus had a plan. And I knew I had to submit to that plan to be obedient. And I went back the next day. And I said, Jeannie, I have an extra room for you. Come on back with me. And she said, I don't have any money. I said, it's okay. I have a pretty good job, and I can get you a job where I work. And she came, and she was so blessed to be in a safe place. And I got her a job where I worked, and she worked for a couple months there, and we rode together, but that particular job didn't work out really well for her, and she ended up losing the job. But God had been blessing me those few months, and when she lost the job, I really didn't need help with the rent at that particular time. So I told her, I need the house cleaned, and if you could make some meals, because she was an excellent cook. I said, that'll be great, because what I really need is like a wife, not a sexual thing, but I need someone to help me take care of the house. I need, it'd be nice so that it's not all on me. And she was real happy about that. I said, just keep the house clean and stuff, and we're good until you can get something else. And I encouraged her to go back to Florida. We were in Texas at that time. I said, your kids and now grandkids are in Florida. I'm sure they miss their mom. And she after a while went back, but we went through Katrina together, and we had a blast without any electricity, and cooking on a grill. We have memories together. She ended up she went back, and because of her job experience with me in collections, she was able to get a job in collections down there, and she ended up doing really well. Now, her story was sad to me because she had damaged her body quite a lot through the abuse of drugs and alcohol, through the physical abuse. She didn't live too many more years, but she ended up being with her kids when she passed away. Her daughter called me and said one of her final words was, she was laying in the hospital and said, "Well, you can't live like a rock star forever." And that's how I remember her. She was my little rock star. She was something else, and we had a good time, and I would have missed the whole relationship if it had not been for the Lord. God has a lot of good plans, and some of his plans for us include things that are not convenient for us. I'm not telling you guys to offer your home to just anybody, because once they're in, it's hard to get people out. I've been blessed to be able to have people come and stay with me for different periods of time. I have a lot of kids that stayed with me while my kids were growing up that now call me mom. And I love that, because some of those people have gone on to be very successful and very nice people in their own right. They just needed a little safe haven for a minute. God's been very good to me, and I've been able to help people that way. And that might not be the way that God wants you to be used, but maybe he can use you by spreading some knowledge, some good information, and some advice to help people get out of abusive situations. You want to be a help, don't you? I know I do. So I want to learn what resources are available. I'll try to put some of this stuff together and some of the different videos I've made, and the one that's coming out today, that has some good resources, some good stories, some good information. Abuse is a global epidemic. It's something that we need to come against as Christians and as just good people who don't want violence in the home. It's unacceptable. Keeping good records and documentation is vital for women and men who are being coerced to regain their voice, to tell their story, to document in writing their experience with coercive control and domestic violence. Amen. I appreciate your encouragement. I thank you all for joining me today. I love you so much. God bless you. I'm going to keep it short and sweet, and I'll talk to you guys later. Y'all have a wonderful day and be a blessing.